Facebook. My husband just gave the fake smile. The fake smile is like my favorite smile ever. He's so funny. We're sitting here trying to think about what we should talk about because, you know, we have all kinds of topics that we usually talk about that typically have to do with whatever the sermon was for the day. Hey, Bobby. And he's like, well, what do you want to talk about? Hi, Josh. And so I gave him a whole list of things and he kept vetoing them. So then right before, hi, Mama Louise, right before coming on, he gives me the fake smile, and the fake smile is just priceless because I can't get enough of it. It's too much. Like there's, it's killing me. Anyways, so we didn't really come up with a plan for today because usually after service when we do the pastoral panel, we are actually talking about the sermon. But it's not really one thing that he likes to do. He's not a fan of what he calls rehashing the day. But I told him if he didn't come up with a, hi Elena, if he didn't come up with the topic, we were going to rehash the day. That's just how it was going to be. So, I mean, there's the other option of talking about our people in our church. And I think that was the better option. So, Elena, that was the fake smile that you just got just a second ago. You know, today, the sermon was being grateful, thankful equals blessed. And I know for me personally, I have been blessed more than I could ever have imagined coming to this church. So, like to give you the little bit of backstory, we were at a different church before coming to Atomic, actually. We were a part of a church, volunteering, and things were not as kosher as they should have been. And there was lots of things that were negative that we did not feel comfortable being a part of and ultimately left that church. Well, it was so bad, we actually took a sabbatical from church. How long do you think? It was like 4 months, maybe longer? Yeah. We took a sabbatical from church for like 4 months. We did church at home. We actually sat up in our bed and either listened to the word online or we would do like a little devotion with the kids or something. But we needed a break because of how we had been treated. It wasn't good. And while we were there, I was one of the, well, originally I was the middle school youth pastor, and I really don't even know how to explain this, but my name got changed to youth director, to youth leader, to back to youth director, to the middle school pastor, to the entire youth director, and they had me reporting to a pastor that was higher than me, because although they believed women should be in ministry, it really wasn't what they practiced. And so ultimately, we left, but while I was there were two boys that were in my youth, and they had gone on a mission trip with me and some other youth leaders to California. And I loved all of our youth there. In fact, one of them, Amanda, became our youth pastor at Atomic for a short period of time. But I loved all the youth, and when we had left the church, I was sad to leave them, but I knew that I was doing what God called me to do, for our family at least, so that we were able to do ministry the way we were supposed to. And so anyways, fast forward, maybe like, it was like 4 or 5 months. I don't know. And I get this phone call a text actually, from a mom who, or actually maybe a year, because we were on sabbatical from a church for 4 months, and then we went and did like home church with some friends. So it's probably more like a year before we actually met Pastors Mark and Donna. We were doing home church with some friends, and I get this text from the mom of the 2 boys, and she had said, "Hey, Pastor Sarah, I don't know where you guys are with church, but we just met this couple that are wanting to start a church, and they had said if you know anybody that would fit in our church well, please message them and reach out to them." And she's like, "I don't know where you guys are in your church, but my boys want you to be their youth pastor again." And I mean, they were getting ready to graduate high school. They were almost done with school. So I wouldn't have been their youth pastor very long, but I had made such an impact that they wanted me to be a part of the youth again. And so I was telling this to Pastor David, and he's like, babe, I'm just not ready for that church, that type of church again. And we had kind of just like categorized it all together because it was such an ugly experience, right? Good gravy, Lord help me. Anyways, it was such an ugly experience. We had kind of categorized it all together. And so I said, well, I'll go to the information night. And he's like, you go, you find out information, you come back and tell me. And I remember praying on my way. So they had started doing information nights. Church hadn't even started yet. They had started doing information nights. And they were meeting once a week at, I think it was the Holiday Inn. But I could be mistaken, but it was in Rio Rancho. I think it was a Holiday Inn. And they were meeting in a meeting room, and they were giving like the rundown of, Mama Louise, you could probably correct me on that if it was a Holiday Inn or not. I can't remember. I think it was, but they were meeting in the meeting room to give information about what their vision was for the church, casting a vision. And
it was the Hilton.
Oh, was the Hilton?
Hilton Garden or something. Right
Okay.
up there.
Yeah. So Hilton. And so they were just doing vision casting, trying to get people interested in what the church was supposed to be or what they felt called to God to start for this church. And I remember praying on my way to the meeting, Lord, we have dealt with some serious junk from the previous church, and I don't want to be a part of that anymore, but I know that I need to be a part of a church. I miss having a church family, and I had said, let me know. Tell me if these are my people and this is my home. And so when I got there, I was going around kind of like on the side saying hi, Miss Liz, saying hi to people and introducing myself, kind of just not real direct, but just kind of, I was curious, but I didn't want to be too involved. I wanted to see, I actually kind of somewhat had this idea that I was going to go there and be like, yeah, it's not for me. But I remember exactly what I prayed to him. And so when the time started, and they got up and started talking, right away I heard the Holy Spirit tell me, this is your home and these are your people. And first of all, it was like total fluke how all of this kind of played out. Number one, they had the Southern accent. My daddy is Southern, and that was what drew me first. Second of all, my daddy was born and raised in Henrietta, Oklahoma. Pastor Donna was born in Henrietta, Oklahoma. When they were talking, there were similarities between our families and theirs, the way they raised Garrett, what we were doing with our kids, and they started talking about church, and I just had a flood of questions. I mean, I was very like, let's just hash this out. Let me just ask you all the questions I can think, because I don't want to go home to my husband and him be like, well, what about this or what about that? My dog was just trying to eat a rock. Anyways. So I asked all kinds of questions to kind of see if I, would say anything that would throw them off, or, maybe get something. Yeah, Mama Louise said millions of questions. Yeah, I had a lot of questions. I wanted to know point blank, are they who they say they are? End of story. Like I needed to know. I was not going to go back into the fake version of church. I wanted something deeper. I wanted something more real, that when you say that you are this type of church, you're actually that type of church. Mind you, I had not yet even heard Pastor Mark or Pastor Donna preach at all. But when they opened their mouth, I heard clearly from the Holy Spirit, this is your home and these are your people. So I came home and I was just on the way home crying in excitement, and came home and told him, and he's like, okay, well, we'll go to their house. Because after the information times, they started meeting at their home and had mini church, kind of like a little devotion, singing little devotion and prayer, as like prep, just trying to help us feel like we were getting ready to start something. And so I asked him to go, and he's like, okay, fine, we'll go. And I think from that moment that we started doing that, our lives were just turned upside down. I mean, do you remember anything from back then that was like one of your memories that you keep when we talk about back then, how it impacted you, or what you thought about back then?
No.
You're so fun tonight. Miss Liz, I'm trying. I mean, I was trying to get him to talk, and I thought, I'll do a topic that maybe he'll want to talk about. And he goes, this isn't the Liz show. And I'm like, the lady gave you onions. She deserves at least half a show. Nothing?
No.
Mama Louise says you were very quiet back then.
Still today.
As though that's changed. Right. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have as big of a talking desire as I do. Nothing?
No.
We had lots of meals with him.
Oh yeah, free food. Can't pass up free food.
Yeah.
And Pastor Mark can cook, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you gotta go for meals.
Yeah. And almost every meal we had with him, there was something onion related in it, so you were loving that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we met at their house for, let's see. Oh, goodness. Oh, she says not like then, so you're much quieter back then. You have talked a little bit more since then. You have been able to, or been willing to talk more. Yeah. Obviously not tonight. Anyways, we started meeting at their house, and that's where we met shortly after going. Well, I met Mama Louise at the hotel, so I met her that day. But, Pastor David didn't meet her until we started going to the house. And then shortly after starting going to the house, we met Jerry Dixon, who was our worship leader at the very beginning. And then we met Raul and Alice Pina. And so that was kind of the core at the start. I don't think there was anybody else at that time besides
the Jeffers.
Well, yes, the two boys' parents, the two boys that had asked me to come start the church, they also have a younger brother. So Cole, Noah, and Josh are the boys. And I loved those boys, man. They were amazing boys. And then their parents, Athena and Scott, were there. So they were, this was the original core group of people that were at the house every week. And we had finally gotten to a point, so this was like late August, early September. I can't remember when Mama Louise moved over, but it was about a couple weeks after she moved over here that we started this stuff. And so it was like either late August or early September. So we're actually coming up on our 6th year anniversary. And
well, our anniversary's in March. That's when we actually open the church. But
right.
Before that, there's a lot of prep work, right, that
right.
goes into this.
So for us, though, it's like our 6th year anniversary of being the start of the church, or the start of the stuff. So anyways, we started in the school building on the 15th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did a few months of church at their house. August 30th, Mama Louise came over August 30th. So ours was like the 2nd week of September. We started for a few months. We did a few months of church in their house. And we had kind of just gotten to this point where, like, you know, let's just start. Because people are going to start coming, so let's just start. So we talked to Mountain View Middle School and got it arranged for us to use the school on Sunday mornings. And we had purchased, the church had purchased a whole lot of, what was it called? It was like mobile church equipment, right? So it was a big, huge trailer, ginormous trailer with all kinds of poles, drapes, sound equipment, instruments, chairs, just all kinds of stuff. It was loaded to the max. And every Sunday, so when we purchased this, it was so big. At first, Pastor Mark had it parked in front of his house, but because it's like a homeowners association, he was kind of getting in trouble for it being there. So we had just said, well, we have our big backyard, so we could pull it and, you know, store it in our backyard on the side. And Pastor Mark came over to look to see how, you know, big that side was. This is before we did some of the things that we did in the backyard. So it was a big, on the side of the yard where our pool is, was a big, huge dirt section. And so we pulled it into our yard every week. We would get up at like 5 a.m. in the morning to start getting ready, you know, hitch up the truck to the trailer, and we drove it to Mountain View Middle School every Sunday morning. We unloaded everything. It took us several hours to unload it and put it together and get it ready. We did worship practice. Then people started coming. And the first week, actually, Brad was one of the janitors that was cleaning, and he kind of just like him-hawed around while we were doing church. And he did this for several weeks, kind of floating around the entrance of the church to listen and kind of see. And then finally Pastor Mark's like, you might as well just sit and watch church. And so he got paid to watch church. But anyways, and then within a few weeks of starting at Mountain View Middle School, the Sacks arrived. Bert, Kim, and Josh. Miss Diane didn't move over until later. But you know, that's how we started church, and we did that every week for months and months and months, every week for months. And it was exhausting because there was still only the chunk of core that were doing all of the labor. But man, we had like our whole Sunday was filled with this stuff, and we had such a good time even though we were tired. All of our kids were helping. And then we all just decided enough is enough, let's get a building, right? We were in the building, so it's the same building, but we were in the bigger side, the side that currently is being occupied by like a gym. And yes, Anita was there right away. She had read about our church in the paper. So Miss Anita has been there since we started in Mountain View Middle School. And actually Miss Sharon Bauman was one of the ones that were there early on when we started in Mountain View Middle School too. And So we moved over to the big building, started doing church, and more people started coming. And really, we could not have had the experience of church if it weren't for these people, because the ones that would get up super early and meet us at the church to help us unpack all the equipment. I mean, AJ was there, Jerry was there, Garrett was there to help us unpack. The Jeffers family was there. I mean, all these people every Sunday kept coming and helping us unload every single article that was in there, set it all up, make sure it was all cleaned up, and then tear it all down. They stayed to tear it all down. Originally, we wanted to have a setup crew and then a tear down crew, but it was like, it's the same people, so we're all gonna do the same thing every time. When we moved into the building, we still had our equipment that was the mobile equipment, but it was set up, like permanently set up. So the big building, the walls were still drapes. And so there wasn't really set up for anybody, but they still, we still had people coming and doing greeter stuff and housekeeping things, and worship team got there early to do practice. I mean, we have been doing life with a chunk of people for quite a while. And we have seen growth not only in our own selves, but in the kids, in even our church members. So, talking about grateful and thankful, I'm grateful that we actually have lasted longer than most startup churches. Most startup churches don't make it past 5 years. And we just celebrated our 5-year church anniversary March 15th of this year. So our church has made it past most startup churches. So I'm grateful, because it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people that were willing to come every week and do the hard work. And I mean hard work. There's always need for the little side things, but man, the ones that were the physical labor people is really where the rubber met the road. And we had so many people that were constantly doing things like that. Now, when we moved into the buildings, there was other factors that happened, like things we needed to redesign, rewire, maneuver things around. And so we had guys that just jumped in and did stuff. Like, at one point we had Daniel Estrada, who came and he helped with air conditioning stuff. And he was a big help because we had air conditioning and heating issues a lot. And so he was there doing other physical labor as well. Eventually Bobby arrived and he was doing physical labor, helping with rearranging stuff and setting things up and tearing things down. When we had to do our stage at the other building was huge. We had to do our stage. We had like a week of people just coming into the building all day long, building and building and building. Adrian Lopez, man, that man is, anything he puts his hands to works. I just am astounded by the way his brain works when it comes to physical labor. So Adrian was a huge help. Marcelino was there to help. Who else came in? Younger Ricky came in to help. Younger Adrian came in to help. Who else? Victor came to help. Victor Alvarado came to help. There was some guys that were there before that are not in our church anymore, and they were there helping. We just had a lot of things that we were doing to get the church really ready for what we envisioned was going to take place. And then we moved over to the other side of the building to help with making our expenses for the church more feasible, so that we could do more outreach kind of stuff, so that we could be more sustainable for what we wanted to do with the church. And even that met its challenges. Like, how do we move from this size to this size and still manage to make that same type of atmosphere? The nice thing was that we had a small classroom for the children's church, and we have gone through our fair share of children's workers. At one point, Miss Sharon was leading the children's church. We had Miss Veronica and Amanda leading children's church, and then ultimately Tom and Sharon jumped in, and the kids have loved having them there. So they have been a big help with just when they teach, they really do focus on the word. And it's not about coloring. It's not about entertainment value. It's not about, how can I babysit your kids for an hour and a half? They actually dive into God's word and teach our kids. I mean, my kids, now granted, it took practice at home, so obviously mom and dad were helping them, but they learned the books of the Bible, 66 books of the Bible. Most adults can't do that. They started learning the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. And these are things that, most churches don't do anymore because it's very entertainment value. So, Tom and Sharon jumped in and they're like, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this the right way. And the kids were loving it. We have had, people come in to do praise and worship over the time. I mean, like I said, we had Jerry Dixon at the beginning, and he was so knowledgeable with how things ran with sound and media and mixing voices, all that kind of stuff. And so that was a good startup help for us to get familiarized with things. And then, there was Pastor Mark and I for a while just by ourselves, and we had a chunk of time where it was just the two of us and we just kind of managed. And then after that was Jason and Jessica. Mm-hmm. And Jason brought in with him a more Tulsa-like experience, Victory Church-like experience, because they were actually from Victory Church. They came over from Victory to try to help our church with worship. And so he brought over that type of experience. And then when they left, it was Pastor Mark and I again, by ourselves again. And then we got Stephen and Alicia. They came over right about our anniversary this year. And sadly, right when our anniversary happened, we had to shut down the church for COVID, and because we were state stipulated or state ordered or whatever to close all the churches for a time. So we had these two brand new worship leaders that were kind of somewhat out of a job and kind of waiting in the wings, ready. They are eager. And so we've been gradually getting them into it. And I'm telling you, this last Friday night was outstanding with Worship with the Word. So it gets better and better. It's a learning curve for everybody, and it's getting better and better every time. We have had cleaning crew. Oh man, for me, my love language is words of affirmation and acts of service. When I see people willing to go clean bathrooms, go vacuum, go sweep, go mop, go Clorox wipe things, I'm like, you are my favorite people on the planet. So we have had all kinds of people rotating in that capacity at our church, doing those things. And to me, that's a big gratitude for me. That's a big thank you for me, because it's something that speaks my love language. We've had people on our usher team that, whenever we have events, they help set things up for the events, and they also help with the greeters in making people feel welcome. Just, I don't know, we've had lots of amazing people. I mean, doing some cool stuff, we've had in our 5 years as an official church, we've had horseshoe tournaments for dads. Brad won one year and got a really cool prize for it. Did he win the second year too?
I think so.
Yeah. And the third year he wasn't here to claim his victory.
We didn't have a third year.
We didn't?
No.
What happened the third year?
COVID.
Really? No. We were here for Horseshoe. We were at our house. Oh no, we didn't. We had it for the hoedown at the hose, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Well, he wasn't here for hoedown at the hose either. Anyways, so we've had the horseshoe tournament for dads for Father's Day. We've had the hoedown at the hose annual event where people come and hang out at our house and play all of our backyard games. We have had family dances for Valentine's. We've had Christmas parties. Let me tell you, those have been a riot. Game nights. What else have we had?
Talent nights.
Talent nights.
Talent shows.
Yeah. Talent shows. Movie nights. We've had worship nights. Aside from worship with the word, we used to have worship nights. We've just done a lot of life in the last 5 years of church with people, and we have been blessed because not only have people loved on our family, like I had said a while ago, probably a couple times, when we're over here, we have no family here. It's just David and I. Our parents live in different states, our siblings live in different states, and so we have no biological relatives here. And our church family has become our family. Pastors Mark and Donna have been to nearly every single birthday party our kids have been, and if they haven't been, it's because they were out of town. So has Mama Louise. We have had people helping us celebrate big events in our lives. One of my birthdays, they actually surprised me, and we all went out for my birthday. I don't know what birthday that was, but you had surprised. All four of us went out. When I've been out of town, church people have come over and brought him food to feed him, and we've had church people taking care of our kids. You know, when we were out of town in Tulsa a couple years ago, Jason and Jessica stayed at our house half the time, but then Rod and Liz stayed at our house for half the time, and they all took care of our kids. And our kids were so loved by all of them, we didn't have to worry about anything happening to our children. But this is how you build family. This is, what needed to happen for us to feel like we had a family again. What else has happened with church?
I mean, you spent half an hour explaining,
The start of the church.
the start of the church.
Yeah. Well, I had to feel some time. You weren't talking.
All right, I'm done.
No. Nothing? What else have we done?
I think what's unique about all this is when you look back on it, it's been 5.5 years, but all the puzzle pieces that have to fit together to make things happen, you find the right people. We've always had the right people to help with building a stage, having the knowledge base to do children's church, youth. We've always had the right people all the time that can just step in and do these jobs. So
even like when we were thinking, how are we going to get this done? That's when the Lord just provided somebody.
all the time.
All the time. And people would figure stuff out before we even had a chance to talk about it. Like there was one time, and we were having an issue with lighting, and it wasn't even really mentioned, and we came in the next week and Adrian had moved the lighting, did it while we had no idea that it was being done. Like it was just done, and we showed up and it was done. We were kind of like blown away. I mean, I'm telling you, when we have had issues with things, the Lord has just given us the answer, whether it's through people or something has just worked. It's just been outstanding. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
No?
Short and sweet tonight.
Yeah, short and sweet. I mean, like I said, we've had a lot of opportunities to be grateful and thankful. People have loved on us in different ways. People have loved on Pastors Mark and Donna in different ways. And I mean, even in the littlest details, you know, when we have potlucks, somebody inevitably makes something with onions in it, but they'll bring a little dish about this big that has no onions in it just for me. No matter who it is, if they're making macaroni and cheese or they're making burritos or whatever it is that they're making, our church family has recognized my allergy to onions to where they make a special effort to do just the little thing just for me so I can enjoy what everybody else is enjoying without the onions. So, like I said, these are the things that we have experienced for being grateful and thankful, and it has caused us to feel very blessed by what we have. I'm going to go ahead and end our session tonight, tell you all that we love you, because our kids just arrived making a whole lot of noise with dinner. And so we're going to stop and enjoy our dinner and be blessed by our food that Maddie went to go get us. We love you guys very much. This week, Tuesday at 9 a.m. is Faith Talks with Pastor Mark. Wednesday at 7 p.m. is Wednesday's Word with me on Facebook Live. And Photo Bomber. And Friday at 7 p.m. is Worship with the Word. If you can come down in person, oh my goodness, he's just like his father. If you can come down in person at 7 p.m., I guarantee you will have a different experience than online, because it's nothing like the same thing. Have a blessed night. We love you.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.